Welcome back. So, just wanted to run through a shoot that I did, half day, very close to my studio, spitting distance, you could say. This is interviews and a bit of B-roll around this company that makes stuff out of like metal, basically. So we're interviewing a couple of people. One is like high up in the company, part of the family who owns it, and the other is an apprentice. We've got to be like quick and light on our feet. Recently, I've been using these Hollyland Lark or something like that, I think they're called. Not sure exactly. Tiny little clip on, like magnet on lav mics instead of the Rode ones or anything else. The camera setup for this super simple. A7S3 is the main shot, and that's got a 24 to 105 on it. I think it was dancing around like the 40 to 50 range, and that's just on a tripod. And then because we're being super quick, I've got just one little light. This is an Aperture 60D, just going through like a cheap double fold photography umbrella, which I find really useful. I really like these because they pack up super small, make super light, make for a really nice like soft light. Photographers use them all the time, and they're good enough. Running it on battery power, you would wanted to run it on battery power, but I broke the cable, the DTAP cable, so that's annoying. And then the other angle is just a handheld shot on the a7R3. I've not got that footage. I've not uploaded the cards and that for that one yet, so I can't show you that. But it looks fine. It's on the 12 to 24, but often when I use the R3, I do it in APS-C mode. It's just a nicer 4K image, a bit sharper, just a bit less muddy. And so I've got the 12 to 24 2.8 on there, at 24, at 2.8. Basically hoping for the best at this point. It's not the greatest camera, but the autofocus is pretty good. The picture's fine. In fact, I kind of think over the next week I'll do a little side by side again, this versus the a7S3, and just color grade them both and see. I shoot an S-Log3 for everything. I know that's sort of frowned upon for the 8-bit footage out of the R3, but do you know what? It works for me. I don't know what to say. Like, I color grade it. It doesn't fall apart too badly. I think it cuts pretty nice with the a7S3, as long as it's not, you don't dwell on stuff too much. I think this is like, people absolutely raved about this camera when it came out. They were blown away by it. So it can't be that bad, can it? And it's a fantastic stills camera, and still one of the best sensors in any camera I've ever used. One of the best, anyway. So, like I say, this interview set up nice and simple, light on our feet. This is why we've got to be light. We're moving through an active workspace. We don't have a lot of time to set up. For this shot, we decided on looking it, like basically shooting from the door. So the interviewee is in the door, and they're sort of lit by the sun. I originally tried to use just the umbrella on the stand just to give them a little bit of diffusion, because the sun was beating down as much as it can be in Manchester in October. But as soon as we started rolling, the wind picked up and just started launching this thing about. And because I'm traveling light, I don't have anything to weigh it down. I did try and put my bag on it, but I didn't the bag was basically empty, so it didn't really help. So we decided on moving the subject just into the shadow of the doorway, and that worked. That worked great, actually. It worked fine. The light wasn't quite as directional on him, and so he's quite flatly quite flatly lit from the front. But it looks fine. These are fast. We've not got a lot of time with this company, so we have to make do with what we can. We can't even bring like a trolley or anything to have like stuff on and ready to go, because we're going through like narrow spaces all the time, and we're going up and down stairs and all around the houses basically. So while these Hollyland aren't like invisible, they're very like discreet compared to clipping a Rode mic, the video, what are they called, the wireless goes. Instead of clipping one of them to someone, which has the big logo, it's got the lights on it. These have a little sticker they come with stickers that you can put over the over the logo on the thing, and they're super tiny, and they sound okay. I mean, it's what you're hearing me on now. It does need a little bit of tinkering in post, but for the ease of use, I'd say it's worth it. These people, the people that we're interviewing on stuff like this, one, they don't have a lot of time with us, so miking them up and miking them up well, and hiding the mic is it's not feasible in the time we have with them. And then, so what do? Do you just have a lav mic clipped on their lapel or their jacket or whatever? That's okay, but often these guys are just in t-shirts, and you end up running mic cables down, and again, it just takes too much time. So in the past, we used the Rode ones just clipped on, and I think it looks awful. Whereas these, they're, like I say, kind of discreet. So the other things I've got here that I highly recommend. You can see the umbrella just absolutely decking it then. Luckily, Christine grabbed it this time, because too many falls onto those umbrellas, and yeah, it's not the best. They will get destroyed. When I used to shoot weddings, I went through quite a few umbrellas because they just get tossed around and stands fall over and stuff. But yeah, the thing that I'm using here that I do really recommend is these. I got them probably 6 months ago now. The in-ear monitors, so they're in-ear like earbud type headphones, but for like 20-30 quid, the quality on them is so good, and they're just really easy to easy and cheap to have in your bag. And so you've got them there all the time, you're not going to forget them. So you might wonder why one of my cameras is handheld, especially for interviews. Typically these don't go on for more than 7 or 8 minutes, maybe 10 at the most. This second angle being handheld gives me a chance to sort of change it up if I need to. And this was a good example of this. I saw some nice angles. I was like, right, I'm going to get this sort of wide shot down low. He's talking about the stuff in the warehouse behind him. It seemed interesting. If I was on a tripod, wouldn't be able to do that. And yes, I would have more footage to cut to from the second angle if it was all locked off. But I prefer for these to have the variety and get a lot of B-roll that can cover up the talking head portion, so it doesn't necessarily all need to have double coverage. I can use it, but I don't have to. And I think that it just makes for a more interesting final product. One of the things I get asked about all the time is that little white wind muff thing on top of the one of the cameras, and it's literally because I use that as scratch audio. I just put a Rycote fluffy wind, like whatever they're called, a wind protector over the microphone on the camera, and it takes the edge off a little bit. I'm never using that audio, but I've in the past I've found that if the wind is hitting it in a particular way, it distorts the audio so much that it won't even sync it in, when you do the auto sync in like DaVinci. So that little bit of fluff just helps tame the wind noise enough that I can get a good sync so that I can use the relevant audio. And then the last thing we did on the day was just got some drone footage of the inside of the warehouse. This isn't actually mine. This is so the company I'm working for, Blossom. This is their drone. It's just the next model up from mine. Slightly better image, slightly nicer to fly, has the better controller. If I was flying drones more, I would probably upgrade, but I probably haven't flown mine for a year at this point. I love drone footage as much as anyone else, but I don't think it's that useful for a lot of stuff I do. A lot of stuff I do is more set up, more indoors, and so I don't really get to use it that much. And then on jobs like this, use Blossoms and fly it like I stole it. No, I'm just kidding. I always take care of it, Christine. I'm sorry. But yeah, we're flying indoors here, which is kind of nerve wracking. My drone is the Mavic Mini 2, so kind of subpar footage, and also no or very few obstacle avoidance sensors. The Mavic 3 Mini, whatever it's called, DJI Mini 3, has more optical avoidance, which is pretty nice for flying in, inside in like a warehouse like this. Although I don't think it picks up like the things like the chains and the cables hanging from the ceiling, so do still have to be really careful. But it kind of makes for some interesting shots in here. Well worth doing, I think. Yeah, that's kind of my day. Then it's into the color grade, so footage is loaded into DaVinci and over to the color tab. I tend to pick out a sort of frame that is representative, and then I've just got these power grades. They're pretty well set up. So you've got like a color space transform at the beginning and the end to turn it into aces, and just a couple of adjustments. So I have a film look on this. Actually, I'm going to change this this is the right one. So I have a couple of these grades that I use across footage, across shoots. This is transform to aces and transform to Rec 709 at the end. White balance, contrast, levels, and last number 5 there is or will be film look. So the process is getting the white balance right, which in DaVinci is really nicely, you just use the eyedropper tool. Contrast I usually have set ready for the a7S3, and levels I'll do a little bit of tweaking on. But I like to use the film look creator. I dial it back quite a lot, but I just like to get the colors. I don't know. I like a contrasty color. I've done a video about this recently. I like a bit of contrast in there. And this is something that's key, is like going back and flipping stuff on and off. because I think you become a little bit blind to, like, you know, the greens, the level of green in a shot, and by flipping it on and off, you kind of go, it resets your brain a little bit. But yeah, like I say, DaVinci Resolve, I'm not the one to come to for color grading, but I like what I like. And then at the end, there's just one node, which is sharpening. So the way I was shown to do this is put it right at the end and convert it to a lab color space. And that, when you apply sharpening, applies it to the luminance. And I forgot to change the channels, but basically you take off all but one channel, and it, for some reason, it just has a slightly better sharpening look. I don't know. I'll link to the original video if I can find it, of the guy whose advice I followed on this. But my color grading is not advanced, I think is what I would say. It's fine, and I think it comes out looking pretty good. But I don't know if I know enough to teach anyone anything, basically. Once I've got that look dialed in for a project, I'll make that a still, and then I can apply that to the other shots from the day. That just means that, you know, the sort of general stuff is in the ballpark, and it's pretty easy to then go and just tweak some last bits. So this was the other fella. Apply the grade, see what I mean? It's not quite right, so this is when I'm going to go and play with some primaries, some levels, and like I say, it ended up being quite flatly lit. I'll show you the difference between the first and the second shot with him. You can just see when we had the diffusion, it was much more contrasty, and I like that a lot better. But yeah, just playing with levels, playing with the white balance, and pretty easily get it where I like it, and safe to move on. There's a little bit of a weird flare on that blue, but I don't think you're going to notice it. It's on there for a couple of seconds tops. So I think we're good. And yeah, that's it.